The last couple of months I did a lot of work on this machine. I remade the complete tailstock, complete overhaul. I made new tool holders. I made a chuck key. I adapted a center and some other tooling for it. I made new gears for the gearbox. And now the thing is fully operational. Of course, there's other things to do, but not really urgent, like an oil leak, for example. But this machine is now ready to make real parts. Useful parts, like let's make a live center, because this one, piece of crap. And to make this live center, I think I found all I need. I have, of course, the taper that I will need to copy the angle, so that's good. And to make this taper, I found this almost useless piece of something. And to make the head, I have here another completely useless piece of something. But if I weld them together, these two useless things can become really useful. Put them together, and then inside I will install two little bearings that I have here. Of course, it should be better with a thrust bearing, but these are two old ball bearings. I think it will work, and if it doesn't, I will make new. And of course, for the point itself, I have a piece of bolt. Let's do this. To weld these two pieces together, I think it will be better if I drill a hole in this one and leave a little point on this one and then press them together. It will be easier to keep them centered while welding. So let's do. First I will drill a hole, and then after adapt the little point here. I think it will be easier. Let's do. Failed. Up. That's okay, I think it will work. Let's make a weld bevel thingy here. I think it will work just fine. I gave the thing just two little tack welds, because for doing the completely round weld, I think I have exactly the machine I need. There's just one little problem. When I gave this thing a test run, for I don't know what reason, the fuse blew out. So now it doesn't work, and I don't want to experiment with little pieces of wire to replace the fuse. No way. I will use the exact fuse for this thing one day if I have one. So it will be hand rotating, whatever. Of course the results look a bit less romantic, but it will do. I think the weld here could be a little bit better, but after a little bit of cleanup, no one will ever know. So now first I will drill here and make the boring to install the two bearings. A few days ago I made this little boring bar, and now is the time to put it to the test. Nice, leaves a nice finish. I think it will work. Perfect. This cutter thingy here always leaves some lines in soft steel like this one. In hard steel it's perfect, but soft steel doesn't. Let's try some high-speed steel. That looks a bit better. It's not fantastic, but better. There's still a little bit left here, but I will give it a touch with a file and it will be okay. Looks a bit like a flashlight for the moment, but okay. Before I can cut this taper on this side, of course I have to set the compound at the right angle. But as always, there is of course a problem. I installed a drill bit here in the chuck with a Morse Taper 3 sleeve, and I hope the camera will pick it up. Almost a ½ millimeter out of center or something. And on the other side here it's even more. So let's find something else. I think I found something. This is a homemade dead center for my other lathe. And of course it's also Morse Taper 3. And this one is much better. The only problem is now that if I move the chuck. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. There is somewhere between 2 and 3 1/100ths of a millimeter of play in the spindle. So we'll see what happens. Sometimes you just have luck. To set the right angle on the compound, first of course I loosen these 2 bolts and then I set more or less 1.5 degrees and I tighten a little bit and I give a sweep with my dial indicator and I had a difference of less than 1/100th of a millimeter. So I suppose it doesn't happen every day, but this time I was lucky. But okay, first I will reduce this diameter to this diameter, of course straight, it's a bit over 24 millimeters, and after I will start to cut the angle. I took a lighter cut and a spring pass in the other direction, just to see if it could be better. But now the finish is completely below zero. There was a lot of singing. I think these bearings of this machine need some attention. But I don't know, we'll see. To check if my angle is correct, I took the spindle out of my tailstock. So let's see what happens. I think I'm really close and I will give the final touch with a piece of sandpaper. I think it will work. After a little bit of polishing with sandpaper, of course I like more to try it here because the spindle of this lathe is an official Morse 3 taper. The one in the tailstock of the other lathe is a homemade, so I start from the idea that this one is more precise than the one I made. But as you can see, it seems to work. Now that I know that the angle of the top slide here is more or less exact, I think it's maybe a good idea to also finish the taper inside the spindle thingy here of the tailstock. And what's nice is that this little boring bar I made, I can use it both sides, so all I have to do is spin my lathe the other direction and it will cut on the other side. When I started the machine to start, of course, finishing my taper here, I saw that there was a problem. My part was wobbling. That doesn't make any sense. A few weeks ago I did recut the jaws and I checked several times and they were close to perfect. So I don't really see the problem. If I take my part out, so my future spindle here, if I take it out and I spin it, the problem is always at the same spot. When I spin it a bit around, here is the mark, the brand of the thing, and over here is the highest spot. I take this spindle out and I use this bar. It's just a little piece of something that I played with time ago, and the thing is cylindric. There is less than 1/100th of difference over this. I put it in here and I see exactly the same results. So that's not good. And it also means that the part I'm making here, my center, when I had this part in the lathe, without knowing it, it was wobbling. And so this part and this part are not in line. And for a center point, it's maybe a good idea to have them in line. Of course, it would be better to put a part like this one, or even whatever part, in a forge-out chuck. And the one I have has exactly the same dimensions that I need for this machine. So it's perfect. But it doesn't fit. So I suppose it's time for a little side project. Adapting the forge-out chuck on the Celtic. I think it will not be too complicated. All I need is this rim, which is of course the plate of the Celtic. And this one, I don't want to change it. I'm gonna change the chuck itself. And as you can see, I already cut in here a long time ago to adapt for my USSR lathe. And works perfectly fine. All I have to do is to take this diameter from this little rim here and cut it out a little bit more in this one. Now it's a little bit, I think it's more complicated to explain than just to do it. But let's do it. To make it a little bit easier to center the thing, I gave this part here a little bit of cleanup. And now it's more or less okay. There is a wobble of less than 2/100ths of the millimeter, that direction. But, as always, there is of course a problem. Every quarter of a turn, here we can see that there is some movement. Which means that this surface is not straight. It's a little bit wobbly, this side. But officially this is a reference surface. So I think I'm gonna give it a very light little pass to clean it up. And the little rim I have to make here is 160 millimeters wide. But I don't have any measuring tool to take precise measurements here. So the only way I can do is I took a very light cut. And now let's try this thing here. Why do they make this always so heavy? Oh. It looks like I have cut 1 millimeter too much. Now that's not really a problem. I will take a smaller cut next one and try again. It is a tight fit, but and it's a fit. Right, I think all that's left to do now is to drill and tap the holes in the bottom plate to hold, of course, the bolts. I touched off here and here with my drill bit, and because of this clamp is in the way, I use my dividers to check if the distance is correct, and it looks good. Of course, this distance is the correct distance, right? The thing is installed, and at first glance it seems to work. The 4 bolts fit perfectly, so I think I was lucky on that one. But of course, there is again a problem. I think the fit of the chuck on the plate is a bit too tight, and while tightening I found out that all my bolts here, they are really hard to turn. Normally it's really easy, but now they're stuck, all 4. And then I install my dial indicator and I see that the thing became square, almost. So I think the only solution is to take it all apart again, reinstall here in the USSR lathe and recut the recess I made just a tiny bit bigger and reinstall the thing and hope for the best. Okay, I admit I cheated a little bit. Instead of recutting the forge out chuck, I gave a really tiny little cut on the rim that holds the chuck in place with my tiny bit cutting tool here. And because of the compound is an angle of about 1.5 degrees, I used the same angle here to cut this rim. So now I have a very slight taper and the fit is close to perfect. And this is still a little bit tight, but at least it works. Perfect. I reinstalled and dialed in my future center point here, and of course I dialed in on the part that I made first. And because the taper is not in line with this part, of course I'm gonna recut it. And now my dial indicator is here, and indeed I have a out of alignment of about 0.3 of a millimeter. And that is more or less what I could read in the difference with the 3-joule chuck. The problem is there's not much meat left here on this taper, so I will take a very light cut and hope that it works. It works. I finished all the little parts and let's press them together. It was quite a journey, but here is the result. And the thing seems to work. It is in center and the point spins freely without any play. So that's good. Imagine you have to work like this with all these problems I had in a commercial workshop. I think I will have a really short career.